For years, FNAF fans have debated sister locations' place in the timeline. Is it before FNAF 1? Is it after FNAF 3? Before FNAF 3? What if I told you the FNAF 2 movie doesn't just hint at the answer, but it reveals it, and it does so through subtle clues that you may have missed. Now, before we go any further, this is your spoiler warning. If you haven't seen the FNAF 2 movie, go and watch that and come back to this, because we are going to connect all the dots and finally put an end to this chronological chaos that is sister location. Because immediately, I'm going to talk about something straight off the bat, and that is the dream sequence with Vanessa, William Afton, and you guessed it, Circus Baby. I know it's wild, right? But we actually see Circus Baby in the flesh in William Afton's attic. Well, in his little room anyway, his workshop, where we clearly see him designing the Fazbear Animatronics. Not sister location animatronics, Fazbear Animatronics. He's literally looking at the plans for Freddy Fazbear himself. But why would he be doing that if he has a Circus Baby animatronic right next to him, which belongs to Circus Baby Entertainment and Rentals? How does that fit into the universe? Does that mean it's already happened? Or is it going to happen? How does Michael Afton play into this? Has he been scooped by Ennard already? I mean, could explain some of his odd behaviors, right? Well, for us to actually decipher whether this is true or not, we need to find out the timeline of the FNAF 2 movie and sister location's placement in it, because it's obvious it's at some point. I mean, when we're watching the FNAF 2 movie, has sister location already happened? I mean, the flashback scene we see with Vanessa is when Vanessa was a little girl, clearly way in the past. So you fast forward to the present day, has sister location already happened? That could completely change what we know about the movie universe's timeline and potentially the games. But before we get on to Circus Baby, the fun times, and Mike himself, let's go over the timeline. Now, just for reference, this is the movie's timeline. We're going on the movie to start with and seeing if we can use the movie to solve the games. Kind of like how people use the books. We know that some point in the 1970s, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza opens under Henry and William. We know this because Henry himself says that they were partners, and we also see a photograph of William and Henry together in William Afton's house during this dream sequence. The first Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location opens in 1982. During the film, they reference this as the original, the first ever. That also has the marionette in it, aka the puppet. This is where Charlie dies and she possesses the marionette. This is at 1982. The newspaper clippings then show us that a huge investigation took place at the pizzeria and subsequently was later closed. We can then assume that it closes sometime in late 1982, but the franchise locations open potentially with the original classics designs in 1983 plus. It's really important to note here that William Afton is at large here. He was never convicted for that murder of Charlotte. And this is how he then goes on to kill all the other victims in the franchise location. But it's at this period, 1983 plus, Circus Baby fits in. But I'll come back to her in a second. Let's continue with the timeline. Let's continue with the key dates from the game. Let's say 1987, William Afton abducts Garrett Schmidt in Nebraska and then kills him, takes his little plane and gives it to his daughter Vanessa. You know, that little plane we see in the dream sequence where Vanessa is also a little girl. That plane we see is Garrett's plane. So it's at this point I'm going to say Circus Baby was complete. 1987 is where he had that animatronic, you know, Circus Baby upstairs. At some point between 1987 and 1990, William Afton commits the MCI murders at the Freddy Fazbear franchise location. Hence how the souls of the little kids in the first movie end up inside the animatronics. The franchise location closes soon after that. So now at this point, the franchise location is closed and the original location are both closed. William Afton uses his family members to guard these locations. He hires Michael Afton as the original guard to guard the original location with the puppet inside of, and also gets Vanessa to join the police force so she can keep an eye on everything else, including the franchise locations. This is potentially how he can use Mike and Vanessa to continue to farm Remnant, but I'll get onto that after the timeline. We can now confidently say by 1993, all locations have been closed, and April 2000 is when the first movie starts. That would mean there was enough time from 1993 till 2000 for the pizzeria to become decrepit, run down, vines etc. growing all over it, the same as the OG location. It's important to note that the year 2000 is when the first movie is actually confirmed to take place. This is also the year Afton becomes spring-locked and is actually killed. That is, until he comes back. This would mean then that sister location has to happen before this, or has happened, because 2 years pass to the fall of 2002, and that is when the second movie takes place. That in itself is an absolute revelation, because that would mean that when we see Mike, sister location would have taken place. And if you know the games, you'll know that in sister location, Mike actually gets scooped. And basically, if you're unfamiliar, in sister location, there's this big giant, what looks to be like a spade, and it basically impales you, scoops out your insides to fit an endoskeleton inside of it, or in this case, a group of endoskeletons. Kind of like we see the puppet do in FNAF 2, she kind of like possesses people and goes inside of them. That's what the scooper does, it basically empties out all your insides. Mike, in sister location, actually has his insides all ripped out and he's injected with remnant, so he's kind of like a walking corpse, but he's still alive, but no insides. Hence why he turns purple and all decrepit in the games. I know it sounds absolutely wild, and that would mean if sister location did take place before the FNAF 2 movie, the Mike we see during all his scenes means he's literally been scooped. He's on his beginning of the journey to become a zombie, because in the games he doesn't just become purple and decrepit straight away, there's several days which pass, even years potentially, before Mike turns all decrepit. The little like 8-bit cutscenes we see show this throughout the game. The same thing could be true here. Mike just hasn't started fully decomposing yet. Mike could have been scooped, had Ennard enter his body, then later leave, and now he's free to his own devices, but without all his organs. That makes sense then, right? Sister location came before the FNAF 2 movie. But whoa. There's a huge spanner in the works here, and that is Molten MCI. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this, Molten MCI basically means that when William Afton was alive, he lures the animatronics to the secret room. And we see this through a collection of mini-games. He uses Shadow Freddy to lure them to the room, he then dismantles them, melts them down to create the Funtime Animatronics, or why he's alive. Now, there's a huge problem with this, for the film universe anyway, because we see the classics still alive and functioning. They haven't been melted down to create the Funtimes. It's important to note here, Baby is separate to the Funtime Animatronics. That's potentially how we see her created first and not any of the others. So the fact that the classics are still alive in the FNAF 2 movie kinda tells me that Circus Baby Entertainment and Rentals isn't up and running. There are no Funtimes at this stage because the classics still exist. But how is that the case? Because William Afton is spring locked. He's literally in our room at this stage, so who is going to create Circus Baby Entertainment and Rentals? And where does it now fit in the timeline? Well, during the game, you actually play as Mike, and Mike is told to go to sister location under his father's orders. He's literally following his father's directive. Whether his father is alive at the time, it's hard to say, but he goes down there and the Funtimes are already there. Now, in the movie universe, during FNAF 2, it is possible that the bunker, the tech, and everything else already exists. William Afton could have created this before he got springlocked. He might not have finished his Funtimes though, and that is where Michael himself comes in to finish his father's mission. I mean, at the end of the movie, he gets knocked out by that guy outside, but then he's nowhere to be seen later on. He's run off. This would give chance for Michael to get all the parts from the original animatronics, melt them down, and create the Funtimes himself. And you might be saying, oh, well, could he really do that? I mean, he literally controls the toys remotely in the house. He has some degree of technological know-how on these animatronics. And again, that fits with the games, because the games actually say he gets fired numerous times for tampering with the animatronics. And now we come full circle back to Circus Baby, the bunker, and everything else. Now, if you know the game, Circus Baby actually gets possessed by William Afton's daughter, Elizabeth. Now, we haven't seen Elizabeth in the film universe. I believe Vanessa has taken that role. We've seen Michael, obviously, but no Elizabeth. Now, in the game universe, Circus Baby actually kind of like releases her claw and pulls her into her body, killing her in the process, and that's how Elizabeth possesses Circus Baby. But the interesting thing is, when Circus Baby doesn't have possession, she has blue eyes, right? Blue. When she gets possessed, however, her eyes change from blue to green, because Elizabeth's eyes were green. It's a nice visual cue to show us that Circus Baby is possessed. Now, in the flashback scene, Circus Baby has blue eyes, indicating she isn't possessed by anything at this stage. Definitely not Elizabeth, if Elizabeth exists in the film universe. Or in this case, Vanessa. I think Vanessa's standing in for Elizabeth. Vanessa clearly hasn't been attacked by Circus Baby because she's still alive in the FNAF 2 movie. That isn't safe to say though for the FNAF 3 movie. You see, Vanessa's eyes also appear green in numerous scenes, but they also appear hazel. This could be due to the lighting, however, but there is a huge similarity there with Vanessa's eye color green and Elizabeth's eye color green, which could line up for obviously possessing Circus Baby and her eyes changing from blue to green. I thought that was an interesting observation to make. However, we must take this with a pinch of salt because we know when the first movie came out, we thought Mike Schmidt was the Mike. Everyone thought, oh, it's Michael Afton. For the FNAF 2 movie to come along and actually put a second Michael, in the mix, they could yet bring Elizabeth into the FNAF 3 movie again in some type of flashback to show that Circus Baby herself is possessed and not by Vanessa. And it's at this point here I'd like to say, can the movie now be used to solve the games? Well, we know the movie, I think it's quite clear, sister location hasn't taken place by the time of the FNAF 2 movie. That is, if they're using the logic of the games, like I said, where William Afton melts down the classics to create the fun times. We know that can't be possible in the film universe unless he doesn't melt down the classics. He creates them out of other animatronic parts and remnant himself, which he has been collecting from Michael farming kills in the old pizzeria, the OG. Mike himself seems to know there's something off with the animatronics and everything else in the OG pizzeria. He references this himself. When the puppet possesses that lady from the ghost hunters, he says, "Welcome back, Charlotte." Michael potentially had been luring people to that location for years, and even if he didn't, like I said earlier, there's a possibility that Afton had created these animatronics already, well, the fun times, using other remnant he's farmed. I mean, we know he was potentially killing in the early 1980s. He goes to kill that kid, remember? At the start of the FNAF 2 movie, the one which Charlotte saves? How many other victims had he already killed to farm the remnant? I mean, he could have already created the fun times by the time the FNAF 2 movie had come around, with a different set of kills, harvested their remnant as such. The theory work there is sound, but I don't believe that to be the case, because the FNAF 3 movie is going to tell a different story. I believe Mike is going to take all the parts we see at the end of the FNAF 2 movie, the originals, the toys, and he is going to go down to the bunker, create the fun times himself. That explains why Mike has now run off. We don't see him at the end of the FNAF 2 movie. And it lines up with the dialogue from Mike in the games. There's a bit of dialogue where Mike is actually referencing his father directly. I can't remember what game it comes from, but it'll pop up on screen now. It's where Mike is talking about going to find his father, not about killing him, but finding his father, and that everything was there exactly how he said it would be, and how they thought he was his father at first, yada yada yada. You get the point. That could now come after this FNAF 2 movie into the FNAF 3 one. And in all honesty, does this help solve the placement of sister location in the games? Well, I believe we already knew the location is sister location anyway, and that's after FNAF 1, but before FNAF 3. I think that is pretty self-explanatory in all honesty. And I think the movie is going to do just that. Sister location is after the first movie, but before 3. You see the parallel universe there, exactly like the books, everything else. It's exactly the same. And the Mike we see in the FNAF movie isn't Michael Afton going down into Sister Location's bunker like the game, it's Michael Schmidt. So when we put our name into the hand unit, we put Mike, aka Michael Schmidt, not Michael Afton. So in actual fact, the movie does confirm the placement of sister location. In the games, it's reinforcing it. Not used as direct evidence, but supporting evidence. But what do you think? I'd love to know your thoughts on this in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, please. And subscribe. Hit that subscribe button right now, because there's plenty more content like this coming out. And we release a video like this every single week. A massive thanks to the Fazbear Entertainment employees who are on screen now. Renamon Fox, Amet Jr. Tapia, Lauren, and our Twisted Fazbear CEOs, Rock Nigel, Bubs Delicious, and Penguin Lover. Thanks for being a valued member of the Fazbear team. I'm Twisted Animatronic. Stay safe out there, superstars.